What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about how everybody does these shocking videos, right? And there's very few things that are actually shocking. But in the 25 years that I've been in lending, most of my shocking moments have stopped when I moved away from the very large cities. The large city, when I moved away from, I would lived in Detroit for a little while. Some of those stories people don't believe just because, but I've got people that'll back it up. But anyway, when I'm here in Central Texas, I haven't had this happen. But what I've noticed is a significant rise in what I would call unethical or bizarre behavior now that things are getting a little tight. And when things get tight, people get desperate. And I've had title companies in the last 2 years do some really crazy things. I've had people that have tried to throw fees onto my buyers. So today we have a unnamed buyer, but is one of my buyers, bought a home in August. And unnamed buyer, tell us about your previous interactions with us and what we did for you, how it went, and then what went on here and how that was different. What was the differences in this, in the relationships, and how it went from a consumer standpoint? Can you give us a top down on that?
Yeah, basically, I had a couple bad run-ins, not even with mortgage brokerages or getting loans or title companies in the past. I've done this 3 or 4 times with Scott specifically, and I felt I was well versed enough to even go as far as representing myself during the time of uncertainty with legislation changes and realtors being like very aggressive. I was getting bad interactions with realtors in the tune of nobody's buying houses, but I'm losing houses that I'm trying to buy. So I decided to even go further and just start representing myself. My fiance is a licensed mortgage broker herself, so we were fine on that side. A little cloudy and strange in the real estate side representing yourself, but it was a new home build, so it was a little bit different.
So
My
I'll add in here that most of
Mhm.
my clients would not have the acumen to know the details. But Mark's fiance, being in the lending industry for years, being well versed with the purchase agreements, and also with his understanding, going through it multiple times, and he's one of those people that really wants to know why. So most people I wouldn't recommend that, or just not to recommend. I just don't think they'd have the ability to get all the details. Whereas he does think of the details. He thinks outside the box, and that's where. And he noticed there was builders that didn't want to deal with people, and that's the deal he found. He did research on the area. He looked at where companies were moving. He looked at the next kind of big thing. So he moved out of a urban area, out of an Austin area to a smaller town. And he viewed that as the kind of next bigger area just because there was a ton of investment with outside companies coming to this area. So he's had an eye for looking into the future, like looking beyond the horizon, beyond the radar as it is. So I just want to throw that in there as a person who doesn't like take chances. I don't think he was taking chances by looking at it because, quite honestly, I think that he saw more detail than most of the people that would represent him would see. Plus, he has construction experience. His brother is an experienced construction, does construction management. He's got a lot of other things that would give him the ability to see things before they happen and bite him in a bad way. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. So initially, the experiences with Scott have been flawless. Anytime I asked a question, I got a very, very detailed answer. As he just mentioned, like I'm a person of details. I can't afford not to be, especially in the real estate market with how unstable it is. It was imperative that this thing not only be done quickly, but also very accurately. We just those details are the killers that make things take a lot of time. But luckily, Scott walked me through certain things with his knowledge base being in the business so long. We were able to leverage a bunch of resources that I haven't really had to leverage before. Come to closing,
Just
running all the
so
way through
just
the
to let the customers know what happened here, Mark found a property and it was a sale by a builder, and he got under contract, and it was two lots. So we got the two lots and he was buying both these lots, and he was using a title company that was suggested by that had a very strong relationship. And this is a well-known title company, and we're going to leave the title company name out of this. As I mentioned earlier in this YouTube and my other documentation, they got better attorneys than me. And in my experience, when you expose the title companies for doing things they shouldn't do, they get very litigious. And they could be completely wrong, but they have no problem calling you up and threatening you and claiming to bury you in court. So to avoid that, we're not going to mention the title company name. So he's under contract. We go through, he's approved with the loan, and we're going to closing. And let us know what went on with your purchase of your home, Mark.
Yes. So everything was fine. It was a scramble. We tried to do it inside of 2 weeks, meaning 14 days over the course of 3 weeks, because it's business days and Saturdays and so on and so forth. So it was a lot of pressure. I think the more suburban area that I moved to, we put ourselves under a little bit of stressor. So that was one thing. But we're licensed insurance people and I'm working and we're paying these people for their experience. The time shouldn't have mattered. Actually, it should have been a lot easier because there weren't many deals coming across these folks. That's for sure. Wasn't a very active area, especially the time that we're in. So that was that. We all went to closing. Everything was fine. They made a few little hiccups along the way, nothing that Scott couldn't navigate and address swiftly, but it was a fight. They were asking for things for Scott to prepare that were out of the scope, which I thought was very interesting. And Scott and the relationship that we have doing business several times over the last several years was okay with sharing that with me. Some of it was very surprising. Other stuff was like, this is typical. They do this. We just have to slap their hand a little bit and give them a little bit of a reality check. As Scott mentioned previously, a lot of people get afraid because the deal may fall apart if you piss the title people over. Once you pass the ball to their court, it seems do what I say or else. And it's a very rocky road when we're going outside of the escrow timing of, okay, you're locked in now, better have everything done in 5 days. Once it goes over to the title company, it's like the ball's in their court. And just some of the requests that we were getting puzzled Scott a bit to do a little bit more research, because it's not very often that people do that to Scott, because he's been working with people he's worked with for years usually. This was an area that he hasn't worked in very often. The builder requested that we use a title company because I was representing myself. So he wanted to use his title company, which I allowed. Again, with the time constraint that we put ourselves under, that we had to do this deal, coincided with my other property and renting that. So there was just a couple moving parts that normally aren't there were there, but it was very important for us for the timing to be as tight as it was. But again, should have not have been an issue at the time we were doing this. In addition to my resources that I had available to me, just none of these things should have happened. We went through the closing. Everything was fine. Everybody was in order. I even got the keys before we went to closing because the area I lived in just wasn't an area that the builder would visit frequently. So I actually got the keys a day before, which was really nice. A little odd, not by the book, but okay. Closing went fine. We moved. Everything worked out as well as it should. The stress wasn't that high during the time of like the ball and the buck being passed to the title company. Come a month after we were in the home, that's when something changed. I got a letter from the county saying that my house is in pre-foreclosure. It wasn't even from the county. They sold my data to a city attorney that they have under a retainer, because again, it's a small county I moved to. So these people are all contracted workers. It's not like the city of Austin where they have attorneys in-house for everything. These are people that are outside and run law firms outside of the city and are just contracted. So they gave my data to them, basically to the tax office, the title company. The message that I received in the mail, it was alarming. My property taxes have not been paid for an entire year. So I was getting a bill for the year that this house was being built because the builder neglected to pay the taxes. Even more so, I was getting a letter because now I'm the homeowner. So now that debt has been passed to me, and I'm accountable for that.
Yeah, let me get the viewers up to speed here. So how this works is the title company is they issue a title insurance policy based on a legal description. Now, this was two lots, and that so this was being sold together, and both of those lots were being transferred to our buyer, and our buyer here paid the title company to do the following things: to do a title search and examination, which is identifying any debts associated with this property, including anybody who has vested interest, which number one, that would fall under 2023 taxes that are unpaid since this is an August 2024 purchase. So I reviewed after this all kind of fell apart. I reviewed the tax cert, and the tax cert showed there was delinquent taxes. So the title company does a title search and examination. They issue a title insurance to both the buyer and the lender. So the lenders require title insurance. The reason they require that is they require to be in first lien position. And the only way to be in first lien position if there's not clouded title or encumbered title. So that covers any past disputes, and that covers future claims, any unpaid liens and errors in public records. So the title company did not pay those taxes. Was it a mistake? That's a good question. The fact that they have a very tight relationship with the sellers made us think that it was not a mistake. We thought maybe she was just incompetent. She just made a mistake. Because when we told her they were unpaid, she said she turned it around that it wasn't her fault because this was on the other lot. And I responded via email that yes, it is on the other lot, but your title insurance covers both lots. And I'm looking at the tax cert that shows there's unpaid taxes on that other lot. Therefore, it was your requirement as an agent issuing title insurance under our Texas Department of Insurance rules to pay all debts on both of those lots. And now we're looking at maybe tax foreclosure. And she dug her heels in and said, no, it's not my problem. So that's just so the people out there know their job is to do a title search, issue title insurance, close this without any liens, which they did not do this, record it, fund it, and disperse funds. So they committed fraud against their own Texas Department of Insurance, their own title insurance. They committed fraud against the Department of Texas Department of Insurance. They also defrauded the lender because they issued a non-valid title insurance, which their agreement of funding this loan fall under the TDSML, which is Texas Department of Savings and Mortgage Lending rules. And not only that, there's federal laws they violated as far as doing this. But it was really odd because we told them, hey, you violated all these things. And they were like, yeah, it's not our problem. So this is where we figured out that this was not a mistake. And this is where Mark will let you know how it got a little contentious because instead of being the, oh my gosh, I made a mistake, it was, yeah, not our problem. And we'll let the customers decide, what are listeners, and put in the comments what you guys think their intentions were. But we'll put the stars out there. You let us know the constellations. Then, Mark, what happened next after we contacted them and you let them know that you were not happy with this situation, that you were going to lose your house to tax foreclosure in the end of 2024, December of 2024, going into January 2025, and they had not paid their 2023 taxes from your purchase in August of 2024? Confronted the title company that they did not perform the duties set forth by state of Texas title companies do, which is title search, title insurance, escrow services, closing coordination, recording documents, disbursement of funds. They did not do that. Mark, sorry, I will mute that out. All names are going to be.
Okay, you can use my name. It's
Okay,
how
we'll
many
say
people
Mark.
can
Okay.
connect those lines,
Mark,
you know?
this is an alias in case those want to know. Okay,
Yeah.
alias, the man who may or may not be Mark. Mark, tell us what happened when what was the attitude of the title company when you said, hey, you didn't pay taxes from a year and over from 2023? Was the first week of 2025 when this got resolved, and you're getting more contacts from the county saying you're going to lose your property to tax foreclosure from these unpaid taxes, correct?
Correct. Luckily, I was smart enough to get in touch with the county office first and just get their experience with this situation. And luckily, again, moving to a small suburban community, the lady was more than willing to share kind of what she's experienced in the past with situations like this, which was surprising to us. She basically told us, okay, you're someone is going to have to pay these immediately, and the letters are not going to stop coming because now you're in the system and it's going to take a while for these things to record. So we'll get several letters into the future, again, jumping forward, about our home being foreclosed on for unpaid taxes. Lucky for us, the woman behind the tax stuff with the county was just willing to overshare everything and said, "Hey, you should really get in touch with your the builder and see what's going on here. Make sure the title company is in the loop." The individual at the title company just pointed to the tax office in the county and said, "That's on you to remedy at this point. There's nothing we can do at this point." You're basically just passing the buck. And it was to back up in the previous long-winded explanation of how the process went. This was status quo for the individual that was managing my closing. It was just constantly pointing fingers and passing the buck, and almost zero accountability and even less visibility into the accountability. It was like stonewalled at this point whenever we'd ask for anything. Now, jumping to how the resolution, do you want to talk about how that went? Because
Hey,
that
Bob.
was, that
Hey,
was really,
Mark, I'm looking at some emails, and these are not going to go if this went to court. Here's an email from December 16th, 2024. Hello, this is from the title agent, who's acting shady to say the least. Hello, the builder was already aware of the 2023 taxes. When I called him, he was at the tax office already. So he was very aware. So before the property was sold, the builder was aware that he was getting delinquent notices, by the way, up until the time this property was sold. He was receiving
correct,
those notices up until
correct.
August of 2024.
An entire year's worth.
An entire year's worth attaches the paid invoice for the 2023 taxes. And then tell us the fun that ensued when he initially paid those taxes, Mark.
So I'm speaking with him and his representing agent through this whole process. I'm relaying specific information that I have in text from downloadable papers from the county tax office of how payments should be submitted. The first time he went, in which the builder was very adamant about getting down there and resolving it, because I think throughout the process, he was included on all of the title company communications and how steadfast we were and how knowledgeable we were about the process, telling the individual handling and closing, "No, you're wrong. That's how this works. Go back and try again because this isn't on us."
Yeah,
Um,
so it was, hey, I get it. You guys are pretty good at this. It seems like they knew what they were doing. They had all of these canned answers ready. And one of those canned answers on another email on the 20th of December said, I spoke with the builder. He did pay the correct amount in 2023, but it was still two separate accounts. The tax assessor combined them in 2024. He's going to attempt to pay online today. I will provide updates when he lets me know. She admitted that the 2023 was outstanding. By admitting that, she admitted that she violated the closing terms, which is there's an unencumbered title, which is what title insurance insures. So she was very aware of this. And I forwarded her the delinquent tax certification that I received in August of 2024 saying, you didn't pay these. So she was aware these weren't paid. The builder was aware they weren't paid. This was a way to scare the buyers, and I'm surmising here. It seemed like this is a coordinated effort to scare the buyers into thinking they're going to lose their property, run down there, pay these taxes, and then the builders and the title company say, we can't get your taxes back because once you pay the taxes and they go into the account, you can't get a refund. And that's what they were hoping for. They were hoping to scare Mark. He doesn't scare very easily, do you, Mark?
no, and the again, the woman at the tax office was very helpful, and she said, "Hey, usually people come in here out of fear and pay these immediately, and the builder or the seller or the representation of whatever you're buying into, whatever that situation is, they just ghost you." So she was like, she was very impressed
So it
that the
sounds these title companies, the
standard,
builder, they made it sound like a one-off situation, but the lady at the tax office
regular occurrence between builders, remodelers, selling agents, people that own houses cash. It's a regular thing. And she was very surprised that the builder showed up himself to pay them in person as per the direction. Because I didn't mention this before, but we had to do this within 3 days.
Oh,
Then
so if
it was
you didn't,
actually
so if you didn't
registered.
get them down there, you could have lost your property altogether.
Correct. We had a 3-day time frame to get this done. So that means he had to go down there in person. He had to pay them. It had to be recorded immediately in the system to stop the process from moving forward, because it was literally 3 days out from when they're like, that's enough. You haven't paid these for a year. There's been hundreds of messages sent to you, whether it was email or actual mail. And it's okay. We have 3 days to do this. He accommodated. He went. However, when he went to pay, he didn't take our instruction. He paid a partial payment, which didn't cover both properties. Then he went to pay it online, which had a 10-day posting time if you pay it online. If you
But
go
you
in
needed to
person,
have it posted almost immediately because he didn't pay his taxes for well over a year. These were, just so the customer knows, these were placed on the property in October of 2023. October 1st of 2023 is when the 2023 taxes are placed on that property. And now we're looking at, and what was this, the first week of January that we're talking about here of
no, November.
2025?
The cutoff was November of 24.
Okay, November of
We had
24.
we had till October 31st to complete the payment. It seems like the county had enough. They just were unpaid all year long, and that's where we were at. So to add insult to injury, where this is where I uncovered some of the shady stuff with the builder, is he just doesn't read or listen. And I think it was malicious. How could I not feel that way when I gave him very direct, simple responses as regards to, here are the instructions how to do this. This account needs this dollar amount. This account needs this dollar amount. You need to pay them separately because we can't move money around. As Scott mentioned earlier, there are no refunds. There are no adjustments. Once the money's there, it's tied to that account that's tied to the property. With the two lots, there was different amounts. One has a code of occupancy. The other one is empty. It's two completely different amounts
And,
of money.
and, and just so the customers know, this falling, the title company coming in and saying, we didn't know, they sell double lots all the time. When you sell a property, you're issuing title insurance that covers both properties. Those are combined into the same legal description. This happens on a regular basis. So to act like something that'd be like going to a car repair guy who replaces engines and saying, "Oh, I have no idea how to change the oil." That was basically her statement. And like he said, there was simple instructions, but those simple instructions were not followed. And who do they benefit? The seller gets to keep the money. So the seller gives title insurance deals to this title company, and maybe him or his friends will, maybe they get together, maybe they do things that are, I don't know, but it seems like they're pretty darn good at it. It seems like they're pretty good at it. And I don't know how to read this. How do you feel? You dealt with more with these people than me. What do you think?
It wasn't a lack of communication because we had everybody's email. So we can take that off of the table, including the instructions. To be honest with you, I'm a shrewd negotiator, very
Yeah.
shrewd,
Yeah.
especially representing myself, taking someone out of the equation who's not negotiating for me, wants the highest price in regards to a buying agent. They want to make more money. I get it. So I just remove that from the equation completely. Like, if I make money on this deal by negotiating, I'm going to pay myself at this point. So he had just lowered the price on the house. I went in and negotiated more. There was a few things in the house from the perspective of the quality of build, which I was okay with. Again, my brother's in contracting, so I negotiated it with him pretty hard, and then layered on top of, hey, we're going to close this in 2 weeks, which they were
Money. Nobody's buying homes in August of 2024. You came in, you're a
zero.
very well qualified buyer, and we performed that. It was 14 days. Like we knocked that out. I want to go back to the paying of this. I'm looking at this receipt on December 16th. from the county showing that he paid it. But correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, didn't he put that on the wrong property, or it somehow there was a mistake?
Correct. I touched on that briefly
Yeah.
earlier. Now, the
Yeah.
county clerk is only going to accept payment. They're not the person that I spoke to from the tax office. They're
Okay.
not going to. They're not going to
They're the
inform.
cashier. They're the
Yeah, the
cashier only.
cashier.
Yeah.
It's a different system. They're not going to be set. They're not going to tell the person making the payment, "Hey, this you have this other one.
Yeah.
This doesn't look right." It's give me the account number and the money, and we'll put it towards it.
Yeah.
There's no wrong or right amount. We have to come to them with the letter and say this amount needs to go in this account. So it was ignored.
Now,
I
do you
did,
think it was a mistake by the builder that he didn't pay the right taxes? Do you think it was just incompetence, or do you think this was intentional to pocket that money? Because then, if it was on the wrong, I don't know if you'll
I,
get that money
I,
back or
I think, I think it was intentional for the fact that incompetence and intentional, like they may have set this up and pulled the wool over some other people's eyes and did the same thing, but also they didn't feel as if they encountered two people who are going to catch on to this and really figure it out and see who's wrong. And after doing so, the denial of accountability here, even though we've proved it wrong several times, it seems like they ran into the wrong guys who know a little bit too much. Guys and gals, let's be correct here. My wife played a big part in uncovering this stuff too. I think they ran into the wrong group of people that were going to put up a fight with this, even though it was a streamlined, a very aggressive timeline to get this completed. I don't think they felt like we were going to be as apt as we were to resolve
let's
this.
let's read
And
off. I'll interject here on the 23rd of December. Hold on, on the 16th of December, the 20th of December, I sent the same things to the title company. And on 23rd, this was the coup de grace. I said, X, the lady at the title company, make sure this property has clear title. UWM, which is United Wholesale Mortgage, which is the largest wholesale lender in the country, lent this mortgage based on clear title that was placed by your title company. This was not completed, and you completed a sale with delinquent taxes. You need to complete this ASAP. If this goes into tax foreclosure, it is because you defrauded the buyer and United Wholesale Mortgage. So I'm somewhat of a small company, but United Wholesale Mortgage, who does 55% of the wholesale volume in the country, they will outpace Rocket Mortgage in the wholesale end on many years. Basically saying, do you want me to wake up this 800-pound gorilla standing behind me? Because I'll send a letter to their legal team, and this will go to your legal team because she's like a little outpost of a large title company. So she was a little running her own thing in this small town with these builders doing this shady, and she was getting business. And I don't think her superiors would take kindly to this, but instead of getting her superiors involved and doing the nuclear option, we decided to just get them to pay. Like, back to Mark's point, this was not the group to rip off here. And I made it clear that she was the one that committed fraud. And it was fraud, and it was theft and trying to steal. And when you steal a rental property, there's certain rights, but when you steal somebody's primary residence, that's where the federal laws kick in, because you're stealing a person's home, and that is not going to go well in this regard. So anyway, Mark, tell us the audacity of them to come back and to respond and say Mark's fiance was getting involved. And this title lady responds on December 20th. When I spoke to the builder, he let me know he was not in town. He did not receive the paid receipt for the taxes. It's just more double talk, more hiding. This is, Mark, would you call it like small town theft or suburban theft, or what? Tell me what you think on
I
this.
just love to chalk it up to stupidity and just saying they're not dealing with people that move like us or that can move like us. They're used to having the ball in their court and telling people and informing people of how it's going to go. That's a majority of the community I'm in. I wouldn't say most of the people where I live are retired. And I chose this area specifically for that. I made a jump 10 years prior than I should have. Some of those people on those fixed incomes, they can really take advantage of. And that's who I feel like runs down to the tax office and pays these unpaid taxes when they're either buying a bare lot or a house or several houses, and it's the area I live in. But it felt malicious going back to finishing what I wanted to say earlier was when I procured the house and we went under contract. I really got the best deal I could possibly get here, um, and he didn't like it. He did not want to take the deal that I
No, he didn't
that
have
I
to sell.
drew
There
up.
was no other buyers. I remember
So
we were in the negotiation phase and you asked me and I said, have them sell it to the other buyers. Oh, that's right. There are none. It's August of 2024. The market is very unstable. Interest rates are sky high. Property values are still overpriced. There isn't the adjustment hasn't happened. And we're in a situation where you're the only offer on the table. So he might not like your offer. Beggars can't be choosers. He didn't have to sell it to you.
yeah, so negotiating and being so rough through that, I think there was a little bit of animosity. Also, having my brother come out here and run an inspection on top of the inspector's report. While he was here, I had my brother here. He didn't like a lot of the things my brother said weren't a big deal, but it's more of a quality control thing with the way things were done in the house. Now, the most expensive things to do in a house were perfect: plumbing, electrical, so on and so forth. It was the finish out, which is like paying attention to detail and things of that nature that he prided himself on that were a mess. And I honestly, I didn't want him to come back in the house and have to redo a bunch of stuff. I'd do it better than myself than any other contractor because it's the finish work. I digress from that, however, and go back to the way that this was handled now. After making the incorrect payments, we received several more letters about a foreclosure. So we're on the phone.
Let's also let the customers know he had this property with neglected taxes since 2023. So these negotiations didn't happen until August of 2024. So he'd already been extremely neglectful on his duties as a property owner. And whether he was had sour grapes about the negotiation, number one, he didn't have to sell it to Mark. Number two, it sounds just a little too convenient to be like a mistake here. That's my take on it. So I don't know.
And after hearing what the tax,
Mark's back. What we're doing is we're talking about how it all kind of went down. You know, he went under contract in August. We closed within 2 weeks. The title company didn't want to add his fiance and a title with a quick claim deed, even though they were pocketing thousands of dollars on this through title insurance fees. And we also, I mean, there was a detailed, basically an effort by the title company and the builder who are tied together, who the builder gives the title company money and they make thousands on each closing. The only way to stop tax foreclosure in Texas is to pay the overdue taxes. They were hoping to scare the buyer on these unpaid taxes. The title company, her emails back were just so fast and everything was like, well, it's not our fault, not our fault. But it is 100% her fault because her duty under Texas law, under Texas property code and real estate laws, under title insurance regulations, under Texas tax code, and the remedies due to buyers and sellers if they don't follow those are absolutely clear. That the title companies are responsible for ensuring clear title before closing. Failure to pay old taxes may result in title defects, affecting the buyer's ownership rights. So now you've got a buyer who's got taxes that were initially placed on the property in October of 2023, and you're almost into 2025 and there's still outstanding taxes. She admits on email to us that the seller knew about the 2023 outstanding taxes. But that's her admitting this, admits that she committed the crime. I don't want to pin it too much on the seller. The seller might have set this up, but it was the title company that did the crime. The crime was transferring a property with defective title, which could result in an invalid loan, could result in the lender calling the note due and payable because they're not in first lien position, could result in claims against title insurance, could result in criminal charges to that title agent. Because in the state of Texas, if you go get into a contract under Deceptive Practices Act and you don't fulfill that contract, there could be not only triple damages, but a criminal charge. That is illegal in the criminal sense. So everybody says, sue me. It's like, well, you don't have to sue somebody. If you show that they violated the Deceptive Practices Act, now they're getting charged by the state. So they were thinking, hey, this is a small lender and a one guy who's representing himself. But two things. One, I might be a small lender, but I'm not going to fight them on my own. I'm going to get the state involved, and I'm going to get the Texas State Attorney General to get them with Deceptive Practices Act. Number two, this loan went through United Wholesale Lending. United Wholesale Mortgage did $240 billion worth of business last year.
Yeah,
That's
fraud.
not small potatoes.
Yeah.
So they see Texas Home Loans. Hey, it's a small lender here in Texas. We can mess with them. We can steal from them. And we can mess with this buyer. He's a young guy. We're going to get over on him. And
He doesn't know how it works in this area that you're operating in, like the township per se.
so, Mark, when you went to the tax office, when was your aha moment when you realized this seemed like a not a mistake? What would you say the couple things that really made you, was it the emails, the lack of accountability by the title company? Was it the attitude of the seller? I know some of the emails I saw looked like complete garbage, like he's out of town. Then she said, oh, he knows about the 2023 taxes, and then somehow he paid the wrong tax ID by mistake. It just, all of it.
There were
What was, I mean, you were talking to the tax lady there. What was tell me your experience, your firsthand experience.
She was very surprised that the builder came in personally to pay the bill himself in person. She goes, normally the homeowner, the most current homeowner comes and pays the bill outright, immediately getting the letter from an attorney.
So what they're hoping for is to get with that second way, which is to scare you with the tax foreclosure. You will go in and pay it, and then probably never see your money because they're going to say, well, you paid it. And once you pay a municipality, you're not getting that money back. That's a one-way valve. I know that from other transactions. The municipalities
And
take the
once,
money, they put it on the account, it's gone.
yeah, once that happened, you kind of have to backpedal now at this point and recheck everything. And for peace of mind for myself, I couldn't come up with anything, you know, of this being related to anything other than slightly malicious coupled with stupidity. And looking back, you kind of start to see a pattern. And there were multiple tripwires set up for us with the way that the earnest money was set up in the time frame that I had to get inspectors here and to really be, fully vet this property out, to adding my spouse to title because I didn't have her on the loan, because it was a lot more efficient with just me as a W-2 employee to run through this process. There was no extras of anything, like she's a small business owner herself, no profits and loss sheets or going into her stuff at all. However, to have her on the title was very important. Them refusing to add her on title a day before closing, saying we can do it afterwards. However, Scott wanting me to get the best deal possible and not be taken advantage of, and then going through, the process, he mentioned and informed me that, hey, if you do this after, it's going to be another $600. Me being the person that I am, I'm going to go to the people most familiar with my loan who have just processed it and closed it for me. So they'd make an additional $500 if I went back to them on this.
Well, also, yeah, there's also a blackout time. So once you do a loan, there's kind of like a gray zone where it's getting recorded and you can't really do anything with title. It has to all be settled and all the deeds have to be recorded and settled with the county. So unless you go with that original title company, then you're going to have a period of time. So the advantage of putting somebody else on title, and having them on title, even if they're not in the loan, is that way the property doesn't go to probate. So if Mark would not have had this, he had his spouse in there, and let's say he signs and buys the property, he drives home and he gets run over by a truck, that property is going to probate, and that's going to be years of headaches and legal costs of somebody who should have ownership. So to avoid that, you do it at closing. When you buy it, you have both people on title, and it's a one page. It's a quick claim deed. It's a very easy thing for the title company to do. um, done at closing. It's, I think some people have charged like 50 or $75 done outside of closing. Now you have to amend title. So then it's going to be $600. So that is what he was looking to avoid. And they were not helpful with this. They weren't helpful with the seller wasn't signing the right documents. I know it's like, we're not sure if the closing is going to happen because the seller hasn't signed these documents at title. And it's like, well, the seller is under contract. What do you mean the seller's not going to sign it? And they almost acted like it was Mark's problem to deal with the seller not selling the home. It was really strange. I mean, it's really bizarre. So you're dealing with kind of a small town. I don't want to say backwoods, but let's say smaller developing community outside of Austin, as opposed to a large community that has just just seemed a little bit like the pool is very small. Wouldn't you say, Mark? It was like you
It's just
scratch
like
my
this.
back, I'll scratch your back kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the kind of business dealings I felt like we've entered to, peeling back the layers and backpedaling once we kind of got, the point of making this video was to talk about the tax stuff, but like also like overview of the whole process of like how these things conspire. So like my advice to anyone would be like right from the beginning, like Scott and I did, is say, hey, the shoe is going to drop. It hasn't dropped that hard yet. There's going to be something else. And this is, again, it's in a 2-week time frame. So everybody is very on top of the communication because of the timeline that we had. But, the tripwires that were set up along the way, you know, once the the tax thing happened, everything was uncovered because we just went back and just said, okay, this was the setup. This was the final gut punch. This was their knockout punch to be like, we got them. And it wasn't just going to be me getting taken by one person. They were refusing to put someone on title that I requested from the inception of the loan, which they had full access to as a part of the task list. So there was an extra $500 on the table for them, and there was an extra $1,600 on the table for not paying the taxes to the builder. Everybody walks away with a little bit of an extra spiff. Look at what we did. It just
Well,
all
it's not even that, but the $1,600, if this went to tax foreclosure, somebody else could own your property. And if you don't pay your taxes, they can evict you from your property.
in a long story short, it would have ended up costing me deca thousands of dollars to fix this if it went actually into being a recorded foreclosure and the proceedings starting. When they kick that off, it's a much different. I got a warning. My data was sold. These people at this date are going to be in foreclosure. Thank God I got the letter because it comes to you in a letter, where I am from a third party attorney. They're not the city of or the county of Bastrop where I am.
Because
And
the
like,
seller was getting those messages and he was purposely ignoring those tax bills, hoping you would run over and pay it, just so
right,
everybody knows. Yeah.
right, or just not paying attention. I mean, it's up for debate. Everybody's going to have their side to the story,
Well,
but for
I do have the email from the title company saying that the seller is aware that he didn't pay the 2023 taxes. So she put in writing that he knew he didn't pay those taxes.
again, going back to like the beginning of the call, I beat this guy up on pricing pretty good because it was the time to do that. Anybody in my shoes that was looking for a house in the time frame that I would have gotten the same deal. There was no buyers out there. It was a complete dry pool. August of 24 there was no one out there looking for houses. They had 3 people here to show me the house. Nobody was doing anything. Why are there 3 people in this house showing me this house? So it was like everybody was walking around in the real estate industry with their hands in their pockets, and especially in the area that that I'm in, it's predominantly retirees. They don't move around here much. It's retirees and builders, because all there is out here is lots of plots of land. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and do you think some of those older people I mean, it sounds like the other people panicked and went and paid their taxes, because the fact that she said this is the first time she had seen a builder actually paying for it when they had this situation. So that tells me a couple things. One, she says they had this situation, that means this isn't the first time. Number two, didn't she say something along the lines of there was like different tradesmen or builders or home improvement people that kind of do this?
Yeah, that's the thing. And like the builder I went with has, on average during the boom was building 10 houses a year. You're not building 10 houses a year anymore. The couple houses you have left, come on. You've got a close eye on them. So
You think these people are possibly in such financial straits that they are just getting? I had a title company. This happened to me about 6 months ago. Right in the contract, it said the seller is paying the owner's title insurance. And they kept adding owner's title insurance on there. And I have an email from them stating that they don't have to listen, they don't have to follow the title insurance, they don't have to follow the contract. They're going to put title insurance on there. And I had to get the closing attorney from United Wholesale Mortgage to tell them, you have to follow the contract. If you do not follow the contract, you cannot close this loan. But they were telling everybody that I was the problem. They said I was they called the realtors and said I'm costing them money. They said, can you believe this horrible lender is getting between you and your commission, and he's going to screw up this whole deal? And luckily for me, the agent involved on the buyer's end, she didn't believe this for a second and said, no, you're not going to charge my buyer owner's title policy when the title policy clearly states this. So this is I'm not jaded against, this is my experience with title company, and I don't mean to talk down about them. There's some really good ones. There's some ones who I really, really trust. And including one individual who works for the same company, and they work for just a different office for the same person that committed fraud. But I see their tricks, and I see that they're not creative on their scams. They say there's nothing new under the sun. I've been in this business 25 years, and I see these scams, and I can kind of see them coming now. This is a new one, trying to steal my buyer's property, colluding with the seller, not paying taxes, and then claiming they didn't know they had to pay taxes. But desperate. I see fraud jump up by the title, or attempted fraud. I stopped the fraud the last few times title companies have done this. I didn't expect the title company not to do what they're legally required to do when they issue title insurance. That just blew me away. And then why we didn't know what we were doing, or the seller knew that they weren't. No, lady, you were supposed to collect those taxes at closing and clear title. You transferred a title with title defects. Any other story is fictional. So the craziness of this, I think crazy people, and they say criminals, they just hope that they shock you so much that you're frozen. But I know you, Mark. That's this. Even if you didn't have me in this realm, you would have got to this. I think I helped it go faster, more a quick pace. But you're not the guy to walk on.
No, I've been taken advantage of in my life enough to know, like, you kind of see a schemer or a scamster coming from a mile away. I grew up in New York City. Now we're in the country. It's like, I've seen your scam 500 times. Cut it out.
Yeah.
And I understand it from a business owner, and especially a builder, and the way my brother tracks his dollars in and dollars out, and like what, I think there might have been some with the market the way it was going back to that in August, it was like nobody knew what the future looked like. There's an election year coming up. There's new realtor reform happening in regards to what commissions people are getting paid and who controls that.
Rates are high. Rates were sky high.
him building 10 houses a year. He's got some inventory out there. He was very, very detailed in the approach of like, where can I save the most money and where can I like, where can I make my gains here? Because he might have lost money on the house with how I negotiated it.
Yeah, that was my other question. Do you think he was, I mean, again, he's got holding costs on the property, that would account for about, even at the best terms, at least three to almost $4,000 a month in holding costs. And then he's got capital tied up, so he can't do something else. So builders get when they get in a bad situation and they need to close quickly, because they need to take that capital out. Let's say he financed half of this, and you're looking at a couple 100,000 finance, a couple 100,000 in profit, and he's gonna redeem himself, like pay the loan off, pay the taxes off, so he doesn't have holding costs, and then he could go and start the next project or buy the next lot, because they're always buying lots in cash. I know the one builder I knew in Austin, he used to he had many people out there. It's almost like like in the crime movies, like a confidential informant. He had these people all around the city. He's like, if you find a lot and you bring it to me, like I'll give you cash for bringing me the name, and he'll pay him like $1,000 or $2,000 cash just by bringing him the name, to not be bid on somebody till he can get under market. So these guys are out there, trying to get their margins up by getting these properties under market, trying to get the properties built at the lowest bid possible with the cheapest trades. Also, I've seen builders delay properties because, like, when cost of goods go up, they go, "Oh, we can't be built for another 8 months." And my buyer's like, I don't know why these properties take so long. I'm like, that's because he doesn't want to pay the price of the wood or the copper or the flooring that he's getting right now. So he calculated that his holding costs are less than the change in the cost of goods. So it's a pretty complex situation. And what I've found is these builders are really good. They're like they're like Jedis when it comes to tricking my buyers. I got a smart buyer. Actually, Mark, you and I know one of these buyers, and the builder was like just lying right to the guy. And I just told him, he's lying to you. We sent we sent an appraiser out to this guy's property in North Austin 6 times. 6 times he said the property was ready. We go out there, and the appraiser's like, I can't, the property's not finished. It's not, I can't, the appraisal, I can't do the appraisal. And then somehow by the time I talked to the buyer, he was yelling at me. And I'm like, I don't know how to tell you this. And he was a young guy, and he thought he knew more than he did. And he knew the law, and he thought he knew this. And I was like, look, kind of like with Mark, I've seen this scam 100 times. They're lying to you. And these are the kinds of, the builders are just really good. It's like, it's like they're like Jedi masters. Like, these aren't the drones you're looking for. It's like they're so good at it. I feel like they should, I don't know, they're amazing at deception.
I think people need to switch their mindset going into buy properties at this point and just treat every single person that a dollar goes to like a used car salesman, because that's what we're doing here. I mean, that's the icky, slimy, vibe. Let's say you're going to buy a $10,000 car at like one of those pay here, buy here lots. You're going to get a few points extra on your, on your loan, because you're buying it from like Shade Tree guy. Whichever bank you finance from is going to change that interest rate and say, hey, your credit score warrants this, we're moving it. And that guy still makes his money because your down payment's gone now. But it's similar to that kind of setup, is that they figured out how to work these properties to maximize their profit. And if that means getting the profit on the back end because they're not happy on the front end, they're going to work that angle and see what they can get away with. And, I just hope that most people approach, making, like I said earlier, the biggest purchase of your life. You're committing to paying someone for 30 years at a set amount every single month. It's a big purchase. And just, make sure you're with the right people. Make sure you're with the people that are going to peel the onion back.
And on those same lines, maybe we could do another interview, and it'll be about builders, and this is what, and I'll touch on this briefly because it doesn't apply here, but does apply on keep your eyes open with the builder. I had a guy who's a major floor installer, and he went out to an $800,000 development area, and the guy was building, I don't know, like 10 houses, and he was bragging how he saved 150,000 per house because he doesn't doing any behind the wall things that he's supposed to do. None. He wasn't putting the insulation in because how do you check? He wasn't putting the heat shield around like the tubs. He wasn't doing the the pipes are all done. He would twist. He said he saw the pipes that were twisted and crimped. They're supposed to cut them off. They're supposed to thread them and put a cap on it. Well, that twist and crimp over the pressure over time, that metal fatigue is going to go. And that happened to one of my buyers in Steiner Ranch, actually in up in Austin. And it was a 6-year old house, and that crimped water, they found that it broke off and it flooded their whole bottom. They came home and all their family stuff was just ruined. It was under like 6 inches of water. So this behind the wall stuff, and maybe your brother who's built some homes and done some other things and been involved in construction, maybe he could warn us what to look for. Maybe there's some signs or the questions to ask. You know a lot about construction, but your brother knows even more. I mean, he's got his hands in it. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, and that's where you go and get a trusted. Again, you said you may want to save this topic for another time, because I have a laundry list of issues that I've had with a house from a warranty situation with this specific builder,
Mm-hmm.
directly pertaining to this loan. It's still not easy. I'm still going through some warranty issues here, and like I said, the house, as far as the really really expensive stuff, was buttoned up. The foundation, the electrical, and the plumbing. It's really things that we expect to happen. But even that, those things that we expect to happen, like some of the landscaping stuff, those come out of hard cash for him because he doesn't have warranty for landscaping. Same thing with the painter. Every time he has a painter come out here, it's out of hard cash because the paint isn't warranted. So on and so forth. You just vet your friggin' inspectors out. Try and get one local that's good, that may even know the builder, and get some background insight, and have your own checklist. Have your own checklist and make sure that inspector follows it. Or if they have one, compare it to the one that you develop yourself. Even more so, you may want to bear the cost of having an individual contractor come out here, whether it's a plumber, an electrician, and a general contractor, just to take a look, because those inspectors too now, they're not that good. I'll be honest with you. I don't trust inspectors after seeing the report versus what my brother had to say. It's very top level. It's very generic. It's down to a science. They have a little checklist, and they'll spend 3 hours here, but what are they doing for 3 hours that they're here?
Yeah, yeah, I've had it similar. I just suggested an inspector, the one inspector that he just he's old school. He's an East Austin guy. He's kind of like a hippie, and he'll just tell you how it is. And I just told my buyers, they said, you have a name? And I said, there's one guy I trust. And I've dealt with I don't know how many hundreds of inspectors. I trust one. There's one guy I'll give the name out. So I mean, obviously your brother you can trust, but I mean the rest, especially when the inspector has a relationship with the seller. That's like, getting back to your used car thing. Would you buy, if you have somebody inspect a used car, would you bring the guy who works on the lot as the mechanic to tell you whether it's good? Well, he's got a, conflict.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. So
um,
it's
well,
buyer beware across the board here. I mean, that's what it is. Have somebody knowledgeable just peel them back. Again, it's like I look at this situation like a layer of an onion, and they did something not appropriate right from the beginning, which set the radar off for us to be like, all right, every move that they make, every communication that they deliver, we really have to look at it. And lo and behold, at the finish line, even after we cross the finish line, things are popping up. Not good. And it's the worst possible thing. You just bought a home. I'm a new homeowner, 6 months in. I'm getting foreclosure notices from a random, attorney here in Bastrop, Texas.
Yeah.
Like a little
And the
digging
little
on.
and the little podunk title company that you paid for title insurance and the lender required somehow didn't fulfill their duties as a title insurance agent. And then kind of blamed, she was just really good at not like, yeah, it was pretty insulting to me and to you to get those responses. Like to think, like when I got those responses, I thought, do you really think that we're just going to believe you? Like, no. It was such a poor response. It was just like, don't look here, nothing to see here. And, you know, and then it was bizarre, but, you learn something new every day. And this was a really strange learning experience for me. And, I'm just glad that it happened. I'm not glad that it happened to you, but I'm glad that it happened to somebody with your acumen really just to tell them, because I would have other people. I'm not kidding you. My buyers, they're easy to scare, and they would just run down there and pay it and say, "Well, we're not. It's only $1,600." And it's like, well, they're stealing from you. They violated a bunch of crime. Like that title company violated the law. Um, you know, I wonder how many other people that title company's done this to. And I wonder if there's a class action could be had here. I don't know. I mean, you dodged the bullet, but who else got really worked over by this?
Well, if you take into account, you can just look up the builder and see how many houses he sold, and knowing his history, on average for the last 5 years, he's building 10 homes a year in this area. That could be 40 people potentially if he sold all
Not
those
just
homes.
that builder, it could be anybody with that title company. See which builders, anybody with an LLC selling it. Like this one I see on there, is a you know, blank Homes LLC. There's a Homes LLC name. So anything with like a builder name and that recorded by that title company, that title agent, um, I bet I don't know. If there's any attorneys listening here and you're interested and you want to get a hold of us and get some more detail, you might have a class action. I don't know.
And there is something I've been saving for the very end here that I didn't plan on talking about, but with my experience with these certain types of people, I mentioned very, very early that my wife is she's registered mortgage broker. She has her broker's license. She can go and work for Scott, and the place that she got that from was directly across the street from this title agent that we're having problems with. So she had a little bit of more background information in regards to those people's relationships with the title company and the mortgage broker. They would have lunch twice a week. I wonder what they were discussing. I'm
Mm,
surprised that she did not recognize my wife when we were in there at the closing, because she was there 2 years across the parking lot in an office where this woman was having lunch with my fiance's, my wife's boss for 2.5 years, twice a week. So
maybe, maybe she did
it's
recognize
it's
her and thought, well, okay, they're
that,
also on the take.
well, that's what I mean. Like now, Scott, you're not the mortgage broker. Imagine somebody coming into, you know, Bastrop and saying, "Oh, I'm going to use a Bastrop mortgage broker because they know the area, and I'm going to use the recommended title company, which also happens to be in Bastrop across the parking lot from each other." What do you think's going on there? It's just like anything.
Well, I do know that I have had. I mean, I'm the owner of the company. I've had people say, if I give you leads, I don't care about rest. I had a guy. I'm not joking. We were at a fancy restaurant, and he said, I don't care about RESPA or whatever. But if I give you leads, let's just figure out a cash payment you'll give me. And I just looked at it like, man, how do you, what if I was, what if I was working for the government? Like you'd go to jail for a long time. So I just got away from this guy, but I do know that if a lender gives deals to title companies, that the title company, because they especially for refinances. So in refinances, the title company is chosen by the lender, and title companies know that. And then what they do is there is gift cards that are dropped off. Oh, there's a $200 gift card here. Is that explicitly illegal? Absolutely. You're not allowed to receive compensation for handing over deals. But how do you track a gift card? Somebody buys a gift card, they give it to somebody. There's no ID required when you go cash in that gift card, at Home Depot or whatever. They just run the gift card, they get their goods, and it's done. It's a unanimous way. That gift card kickback is one that it was. There's a lender in Austin. He's one of the largest lenders, believe it or not. And he told he went to lunch with one of my other former colleagues and said, yeah, I spend about 800 grand a year with gift cards to realtors. So this whole kickback thing is nothing new. And, I'm like that. I think they're just so crazy. I used to say I was too pretty to go to jail. Now I'm just too old. But I'm like, what are you guys thinking? Like, that could get subpoenaed. Like, how many gift cards did you have? Where'd they go? You didn't buy this. Where's that stuff? But I don't know. The dirty side of this, I think we should do another builder, maybe behind the wall thing with your brother. And I could tell my stories. Your brother could tell his stories. The things that I've heard from builders have told me. There's some really good ones. I know a couple of good ones in the San Antonio area that go above and beyond, but most are not. I got to tell you, it's just like anybody. So, I'm not going to say all title companies are bad. We've been pointing out how this title company is bad, but there are some title companies that are amazing. They will go above and beyond. They wouldn't think about breaking the law. They wouldn't think about ripping people off. They wouldn't think about taking kickbacks. So there's some really good ones out there. It's really individual, but desperate times creates desperate measures. And unfortunately, there's a quote. I don't know if I know, Mark, you've heard of Rage Against the Machine, but the guitarist, he made a solo effort. And one of the lyrics says, I'm going to throw a little money around, find out who can be bought. Some might be a little stronger, some a little weaker than they thought. So you really don't know who's moral until money starts exchanging hands. But you find out pretty quickly who will do the right thing, not the profitable thing.
Yeah, it's an interesting time we live in, and again, back to this story, like more specifically, is like it just all adds up and it all makes sense at the end. And talking through it again, like months out, and then experiencing the home warranty issues that I've had to have additional dealings with the builder. It's just slimy. It just really is. I feel like prey at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Did you get, did you get just angry at any point, just in general, like thinking these people are trying to steal my home? Like, this is not.
No, I kept my cool until I didn't have to. And I explained this situation to, the builder when I started getting angry, and I said, yo, I'm I put my hands in the air and I said, I was here at eye level with my level of frustration. And then I threw my hand up way above my head and said, hey, I'm here now. Like, that's where we are. And I was like, look, I work at a company where my legal fees are covered for situations like this. I have that built into my employment contract, where if there's legal things where I need to leverage a legal team for something, this fits that criteria. I'm not going to pay legal fees to kick something off here. You're a small business owner. You just deal in houses. Okay. You're not a billionaire, because if you were, I wouldn't see you out here. So I know your situation. And I think that kind of summed up everything for them into playing ball. But even after
It was required a show of force for him to treat you with respect.
Yeah, I had to
You had to say,
enforce.
look, I've got this B-52 bomber behind me. I could carpet bomb you, or you could do what you're supposed to.
Yeah,
But if you wouldn't have had that, how do you think it would go? Let's say you were average Joe. Let's say you're a little bit younger or older, and you weren't in that kind of sweet spot of like young enough to where you're gonna willing to be in a protracted fight, but old enough to have the experience to know who to fight. So if you weren't in
Well,
that sweet spot, how do you think that would have gone?
yeah, okay. It would have. I think about the people that are around here and the retirees, and I'm in a small suburb community where these people don't have access to those resources anymore. Accessing those resources equate to dollars. Those dollars are coming from a fixed income.
Yeah.
These people are retired. They're not working anymore. The age group where I live, and I like to tell people, I'm like, hey, I made this move 15 years earlier than I should have, just to cut out that middle part. I'm just going to go to the end.
Yeah. But I mean, you got to, I mean, it's a great location. You got the two lots. It's a beautiful home. And you know what bothers me? And this is one of the things that bothers me about the builders that really try this. And I'll tell stories when we do interview with your brother. But what bothers me is this: buying a house is very emotional, and that
Yeah.
emotion can be positive or negative. And when somebody tries to steal from you, somebody tries to lie to you, somebody tries to manipulate you, it really clouds the whole transaction, and then it clouds your house. And that's what really gets under my skin with the people
Yeah.
like
Coming,
this.
exactly. Coming home knowing that there's some sort of legal paperwork out there attached to this property now that was out of my control based on something someone else did. And now it's put on me as my fault. I would have never let this house go into foreclosure. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's like I wouldn't have moved here if I couldn't afford to live here. And I'm paying my mortgage, I'm paying my bills. I have, other properties and I've never once even would have
Well, it's
would
this
entertain the
tax bill was prior to you even buying the property, so it's not even your bill.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's just the signals were there throughout the entire process, and we didn't think this big of a shoe would drop after we caught the first couple things, and they knew the game we were playing, which wasn't a game. It's we're by the book, and if you're not doing it by the book, we're going to call you out and hold you accountable. The accountability just wasn't there for them from the beginning. It was
Yeah.
passing the buck, trying to do as little as possible because they knew they weren't making any money off of me. I beat the guy up on the price pretty good. I didn't have a seller, a buyer agent. So they looked at that as like, oh, pray. And that's what I'm feeling now is like all the signs for them to take advantage were there. And that's why they tried to do it. It's just they didn't account for me being a hard nosed Italian from New York that still has his communion money in the bank account. So, like, yeah, yeah, it's, there I treat my life as if I'm running my own business and me being the actual entity. I'm running it the same way you're running your home building business. Like I'm gonna look at everything. I'm gonna look at everything in great detail and understand why these things are happening. None of these things point to this should have happened for any reason. None of these things should have happened. It's very obscure. And again, Scott mentioned that emotional thing coming home throughout this process. Being in this house, it was just a dark cloud over it. I'm not having a good start here. you know.
Yeah, then this is crazy, but I see this almost every builder deal. I mean, almost every build they do something crazy. It's almost every single transaction, and it's like the people that do this are, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it is a when I've
Use
gotten to the point.
filter
So
of houses.
this is how ubiquitous this type of not this shocked me, but I give my buyers the disclaimer. Look, they're going to pretend like they're your best friend. Look, they're going to be nice to you. They're going to have a person who's really good at lying to you. So think about, but I can tell you before this transaction is over, you're going to be questioning reality and you're going to be questioning me. You're going to be questioning everybody because it's not going to make sense. And they invariably come back to me and they say, I mean, you and I have a mutual friend, used to work at a bike shop and he bought a house in Kyle and they had one tree in the backyard. It was a 24-inch oak and they were under contract for 6 months. And the builder sold it to them for X amount of dollars. And the market went up between the time they signed that contract and the time they closed. And the builder kept trying to back out of the deal. A week before closing, they cut down the only tree in their yard. 24-inch oak, just cut it down. No shade in their backyard now. And it was just unbelievable. And now my buyer's under contract to close. And, this guy is like, what do I do? And I'm like, I don't know what you do. I mean, sue them, whatever. But it's like, when you deal with the builder, man, just be ready for it. It's nonstop with these people. And I'm not saying you want to say these people as in all of them, but I want to say 90 to 95%. That's just my experience. And the odds of me having hundreds of transactions and almost all of them be bad to some degree, and they getting taken advantage of and lied to just repeatedly, odds of that are zero, or effectively, it's statistically zero. So this is a super extreme example where they were colluding to deliver invalid title. It's also kind of the least intelligent because this title company, if it would have gone to tax foreclosure, I can tell you she wouldn't be in business. I mean, like I said, if there's any attorneys out here that have heard of this or want to do a class action, I'll tell you what, these people know what they're doing. And we can tell you what's going on. You could maybe get a class action and, say, hey, give us your records on who you ripped, or, give us your closing records or look it up. And I could help you direct on the crimes that were committed. If you want to, complete a, class action against these people, because I bet they've stolen from your neighbors at some degree, Mark. Like, I bet you've driven by a property that the tax money has been stolen from.
Without a doubt, just the tax office's comment. Wow, really surprised that the builder came in here. That usually doesn't happen. Usually the current homeowner comes in a frantic panic and pays this just to be square. And I said, yeah, that's not really how I operate. So I'm ready to fight.
Well, you think about that. You got a lady who's in charge of paying these back taxes and is not surprised. Let's just talk about that to begin with. Let's look at that. She's not surprised that the builder didn't pay his old taxes. Number one. Number two, she's not surprised. Everyone gets title insurance. You're not the only one. So when you close at a title company, you get title insurance. So that means every single deal that made her not surprised that a title company committed fraud, has no problem committing crimes. So I wonder if she runs that office in that town, but I wonder if other title companies are in on it, or it's just her doing it, because this is not a one-off. And then the fact that it works. Most people panic, get down here and pay. And you were the outlier. You didn't get screwed. You didn't just roll over.
No, I told them like it was. You're going down there personally and paying this, so we're gonna have a different set of issues to tackle here. I highly recommend you do this like ASAP. He ran down there. He did it. I'll give him that.
Yeah, but only after you showed him the bazooka and said, "I'm going to pull this trigger and blow up you and your world."
Well, I had to inform him. I said, "Hey, my loan's invalid, and guess what? The interest rate just dropped 0.5 point, so we might just have to redo this whole thing." And like, guess what? I'm getting my down payment back. I'm getting everything back to redo this whole thing for me. So, I mean, we could go that route, or we could just simply go down to the tax office and pay the damn bill. And do not pay it online. Do not pay it online. It takes 10 days to post.
Yeah, and then we get the email. He's paying it online it's exactly what he did right after you told him not to do it.
Well, he went in the first time and he paid the incorrect account. And as you explained earlier, they can't transfer funds from one account to another account when it comes to the
Do we say
taxation.
paid the wrong account in air quotes?
Yeah, he paid right. He paid something under his name. Who knows what he paid, but the
Yeah.
bill was settled. He then went on vacation and paid it online anyway to make the correction, but that took 10 more days, which in turn, I got two more potential foreclosure letters from an
Yeah.
attorney. So he looked at me at because I went to his office and his selling agent that he uses was there, and he told me to my face, he goes, "The letters are not going to stop coming for a long time because now you're on a mailing list."
Yeah.
So they
Well,
violated.
this was also right before Christmas. I mean, they know what they're doing here. People are out
Yeah,
of town. There's people are stressed. They might be scared. I mean, you look at the numbers for suicide and all these things, it's always around the holidays because it's a stressful time. I mean, it is not, I don't think it's a coincidence that they knew what they were doing. They
yeah,
knew to get
nasty.
you. They were hoping to get you out of town. They're like, oh, this guy's he doesn't have a Texas accent. We're going to get him when he's in New York and he's going to have to pay it online and we're going to scare him and all of this stuff. And it's just, I don't know. That title lady, the more I think about this, the more I just realize that she was the brains behind it because she violated you paid her for title insurance. She violated just a series of laws.
Yeah, I mean,
And
like I said, going back, it's there were a lot of landmines and tripwires that we encountered, and luckily enough, the first one was like, all right, we got to put our spidey senses up because just the fact that she wouldn't create one single piece of paper to add to the closing docs to save me $600 and a year's worth of my time, which would have left me out there, with my pants down if something happened to me, and the property then would go who knows where, and my wife would have had to fight for it. On top of costing me, anywhere from $700 to $1,000 to get her on there, and then I'd have to wait a year. I mean, we're just talking about inane acts that just were repeated throughout the whole process, and it was just
yeah,
her not wanting to work and do things, which made her drop the ball and make a mistake that we fortunately were able to like really point out and like really put her under our thumb and be like, stop, the nonsense stops now. It didn't. The last straw that broke the camel's back was this tax thing, which was after the loan was closed. They were like, haha, we made your life a little bit more of a pain in the ass. They tried to get me one last time, and it's just like, come on, guys, like enough is
yeah.
enough. Like it's
Well,
gotta.
yeah, this is if I would give somebody advice, you need to talk to you need to talk to a buyer that dealt with the builder prior to. That's who you need to interview. You need to find out and get it on get that name, find out, look at the county, see who they closed with, knock on their door and say, sorry to bother you. I know you had this builder. I'm thinking about hiring them. What was your experience? I've had nightmares with other builders or heard the nightmare stories. Well, that sounds good. Well, I'm sorry this happened to you, Mark, but I'm glad it happened to you and not somebody else because they didn't take advantage of you. You got them done. I know it stressed you out a little bit, but I know that
At the
you
end,
can handle
at the
it.
end of the day, when I know I'm right and I know I can handle it, it's like I welcome the fight.
Yeah,
It
they
it
messed
may
with the
not.
wrong guy. I mean, he
Yeah,
met you before this. He should have. Well, the thing is, but you're also polite. You're polite, and you've got manners, and people mistake that for weakness. And that was a judgment call that they really screwed up on in this one here.
I don't think they really took it seriously when I said, hey, like I'm here and I'm at my boiling point now. Imagine if this boils over and the water evaporates. That's a place you don't want to be. You don't want to be on the other end of that. And it's not threatening. It's just like I don't want to be on that end. I don't want to have to go there. But it's like I just cut the middle out. I cut the middle out and I went right to the end and just had to tell them, look, like X, Y, and Z is going to happen after this if we continue to have problems. Like we're going to end up in a situation we both have been trying to avoid since we became adults, essentially. It's
Yeah.
putting everybody, it's just like for no reason. It's $1,000. I just spent $500,000. You're talking about $1,600. I
Yeah,
just gave.
it's weird. It's like the builders, it's like it's almost like it's almost like a gambler's high. I've seen this before where it's almost like if they can get one over anybody or just steal some money. I've seen them work 10 times more to get it the wrong way. It's almost like it's like the person that will do something 10 times, they get a bigger high to like steal money than to earn it. Does that make sense? It's like a neurological defect or a broken mechanism. Oh, you're muted.
Well, yeah. Well, I was saying it's like, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. And like for them, unfortunately, and people that operate in this manner, what I've learned is it ends up costing you two or three times, four times, five times as much than to just avoid that from the beginning and do it correctly the first time. We're talking about buying a home here. It's the shelter is the oldest business in the world, right? Providing shelter for yourself, buying shelter, renting an apartment, buying a house, living, putting a roof over your head is the oldest business in the world. You're gonna get caught, you know. You're gonna
Yeah.
get caught.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah. No, yeah. It's really crazy, what's going on, but it, yeah, it's really crazy. But I'm glad that this didn't happen. We're going to document this. Maybe we'll prevent. Maybe somebody's in this situation where they're having this happen right now, or they had it happen, and they're getting these. Maybe they paid the taxes. If you need some help on this, you reach out to me. I can point you in the right direction. I am not a title insurance agent. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not an attorney, but I'm very familiar with those. So I can point you in the right direction with the right person, with the right contacts, with the right resources at the state. At least, you've got some basic level protections at the state that most people don't know about. And that's who these people prey on. They don't realize that the state of Texas will protect you in a lot of these ways from these builders and what they're doing. And builders are protected against, it's the deceptive Texas Deceptive Trade Practice Act, so DTPA. That is that could result in a criminal charge against these people. So if you and I were malicious, Mark, in another world, and we really wanted to put a stamp on this, we would go and we would get a hold of the Texas AG and get this title agent charged with a crime, because they did violate your rights under the Texas Deceptive Practices Act.
It's a form of fraud.
Well, it's also a criminal act. It's fraud. You can get fraud. Well, fraud can be charged criminally as well. So there's civil action, but criminal action doesn't cost you anything. You could go and light these people up. We have enough proof here. I mean, it depends on, that's not something you're not a litigious person. You just want to get away from them. But hey, we're out here to help to spread the word. This is what happens. These title companies are good at controlling people and making them think. And when I say title companies, I mean the bad ones. There's really good ones. There's good ones that treat you with respect, and there's ones that want to control you. And the ones that want to control you are the ones that I've seen commit fraud. And this isn't the only fraud that I've seen. I'm going to do some more informative YouTube videos on the fraud that I've seen on the title companies. I'm going to dig up some of this stuff. I'm probably going to have, PSD from reliving these nightmare scenarios. I mean, these people have driven me nuts. Where it's the last thing I'm thinking of before I go to bed, and the first thing that pops in my head at 6 a.m. I mean, they are really crazy. People will really get under your skin when they're trying to steal from your buyers.
Yeah, if there's anything I can leave anyone with is, yes, it might be your dream home. It might be the place that you want to live. You might be super excited. But at the end of the day, they're not doing you any favors. You're buying a house from them. You're doing them the favor.
You're paying them.
You're paying them. They work for you. So if they do anything that you're questioning, question it. Don't sit there and just and take it. They work for you. Their job is to keep you happy, comfortable, and excited about getting a new home. Not the other way around. They're not doing you any favors.
Yeah.
They're not doing you any favors. Their job is to make money off you. It's like buying a car. What do they do when they have you in a car dealership? They keep you there for 4 hours so that finally when the paperwork shows up, that you just sign it and ignore, and you're so beat up mentally and drained that you may overlook something. Don't be that person.
Yeah, they get you by um, manipulative people. They get you with task saturation. I
Yeah,
don't
they
think
just
this is
burn
a
you out.
mistake that they hit you right at
Yeah.
the holidays, right? And then said, I don't know what I'm doing. And then, the deadline was coming. And to be so unintelligent by the title agent to say he's aware of the back taxes. That means you know what, lady, you're aware of it. I pulled it. The first thing I did was review the file. There were delinquent taxes you didn't pay at closing. So you violated Texas law. You violated your agreement as a title insurance agent. You are a scumbag. You are a trash bag. And there's no way. How do you live with yourself? But you know what? They don't care. You're not getting one of the things I've learned is you're not going to get a apology from them. Like you said, from a business standpoint, you understand. But from a moral standpoint, it makes you sick that these people are humans just like you. But hey, they're really good. And what I can tell buyers is they're really good at lying. They're really good at being your best friend. They're really good at being manipulative. Judge them
They're
by their
really good at
behavior, not their
making you.
words.
They're really good at making you feel like they're doing you a favor.
Yes.
Don't get
Yeah. They're
caught in that
excellent
trap.
at that. Yeah.
Don't get caught in that trap.
Well,
It's, oh, you're not going to do that? Well, this guy will.
yeah.
It's easy. Then the deal's off. If you threaten to do especially in the market that we're in now, don't be afraid to walk away if it's no good.
Can you
If it's
imagine
no,
the fraud that they do during a hot market?
oh my God, dude, like
Because
what
then
we,
people are just
what
like, I
we
don't
did
want
with
to lose
my,
the house.
yeah,
You
what
know,
we did with my last house. So it was like, it was a different time, but we were okay. But I could only imagine that people when we were paying way over asking price, cash in the deals, and all these wild things happening, especially in Austin, which was like the hottest market in the country for the last 3 years. It's like, you guys paid 20% over asking with cash? No way. No way.
see
The
more.
deal's
Yeah.
the deal's no good. That's no good. That's not good.
Uh-huh. Yeah, they'll threaten to take it away from you. You're not going to get this house. And especially if you got kids and you got to get them enrolled in school, they'll use leverage. It's just really weird. It's like the TV shows that you see of the evil side of humanity is alive and well in the housing industry. And what I tell people is you just add zeros so they're better liars. Like you talked about the $10,000 analogy with the used car lot. Well, these are
Yeah.
$500,000 properties. So multiply that times 50. They're 50 times better than that guy who's lying to you for $10,000.
Oh yeah. And it's just, yeah. I mean, don't be afraid to walk away from a deal. You can still be excited, but you're the one with the carrot, and that's what they're trying to get at. And they're very deceptive, like Scott said. It's they make you, and I'm guilty of that too. I'm not afraid to say that they're they made it seem like initially, since I was representing myself, that they're doing me a favor by helping me and giving me tips along how to buy a house. And it's like, okay, great. But the second I did the research, which took me all of like 30 seconds every time they recommended something, no, you're wrong. That's not actually how it works. So it's you're not doing me a favor. I almost walked away from this deal on 3 separate occasions.
Yeah. I'm gonna do another one of the builders, how it's almost like emotional abuse to my buyers. I had a buyer at a dream home, $700,000 home. They were so mad at how slimy the builder was. They said they're going to cancel it, and they said I was the only one they trusted in the whole transaction. They're going to cancel. They were 2 weeks away from moving in, and I talked them out of it. And they said we at the time, my wife had her real estate license. They said we want your wife to represent us, and we're going to go buy another property. And I said, do you like this property? They said, yeah, we like it. I said, do you envision will your life be harder if you walked away from it? They said, yes, it would. And I said, I want you to not let them ruin your home. I said, look at the house. You got a good deal on the house. The prices went up after they signed the contract, and that builder made their life a living hell and tried to ruin their life. And he was just trying to get them to cancel the contract. And they almost did. And I saw the comps. I saw the appraisal came in higher. And the builder's like, you have to give me the appraisal on my property. And I said, no, a appraisal is paid for by the buyer. That is their property. So it might be your property, but the appraisal is not your property. Well, I don't like how you're talking to me. And of course, they call the agents and say what I'm a bad person I am. And they bought off the buyer's agent. My buyer didn't even trust their buyer's agent. So the fact that you didn't have an agent was probably a good thing because they would have paid him off and said, we'll give you
Exactly.
some money if you get in on this. So it's
It's a
like
risk. It's a risk.
yeah,
It's
it's
just
corruption to top down, and they're really good at manipulation. I mean, it's almost like you're watching a movie on arms dealers or something. It's like that level of corruption. And people think, oh, you're jaded, Scott. You've been in the business a long time. I'm like, no, I've seen some shit, man. I mean, I've seen it. If, and 15 year ago, Scott would talk to me and say, man, you're kind of weird. And I'd be like, well, let's look at this situation, this, and then 15 year ago, Scott would be like, wow, that's what happened. You have the email. And the good thing is, I have the emails to back it up. These are not like made up things. It's in the emails. This is even up for discussion. Like that, like her acknowledging that she violated Texas law by not paying the back taxes is right in the emails. She
yeah, I think
admitted it.
like, yeah, I think there was a big kicker too when we started leaving, or you started leaving notes on the United Wholesale Mortgages,
Yeah.
notes section or whatever. It's now it's visible to people that can really, take a closer look at this. And if things are tracked to where there's a red flag, flown in the notes section from a reviewer, if those people don't report that, that means they'll lose their job. So chances are, I don't know what happened to this woman after the fact, but I'm assuming that there were some conversations had, if not, other additional action to kind
Probably,
of what
they're
was
pretty
going on.
busy. I would say probably they didn't, come down on her. It would be up to, they would have to have a home buyer come in and make a formal complaint with Texas AG, Texas TDSML, Texas TDI, and it would take a formal, but I would say they didn't get you, but hey, people listening out there, if you got taken in this manner or you got mistreated in that manner, you let us know. You send me a private message. You can contact me at texashomeloans.com. You can get my email there. Get a hold of me and let's see if this is something that's, if this is a systemic problem, it could be a bigger problem. My wife always jokes like you're always making the big money people mad, uncovering things. There's been a couple of other loan fraud things that I've uncovered in the past as far as what some of the larger banks were doing to some of our veterans and minorities. And she's like, aren't you worried about that? I'm like, no, I'm not worried. So I don't know. Yeah, maybe this is the one thread, the Aaron Brockovich event,
Yeah.
that it kind of unravels it, but unravels this scumbaggery. And hey, maybe I'll tell you what, if you're a screenwriter out there and if you want a very content driven, original content driven, I'll tell you what, we've got some stories for you. Because that's also, I mean, there is content, real content. These players are real people. And that's what really drives a script.
Yeah, I mean, it's the boiler room of more of home buying. If you're
Yeah.
familiar with the
with
old
a
movie
with a
Boiler
sem-
Room,
with a Texas twist, right? That small town
yeah,
Texas twist on
yep,
it. Yeah, the
yep,
boiler room, which you kind of expect from a stockbroker. You get to a smaller town in Texas, you just don't expect them to try to steal your home.
yeah. Here's where you probably the people out there that have come this far and have gotten this deep into the conversation is if you're in a smaller suburban area where there's local offices that handle title, that handle mortgages, and you're referred to them by a local realtor. It's a small little mini mafia. They all know who the players are. They all know what they're
Yes.
up to. It's
Yes.
you really your spidey senses should be tickled at that point with like where it's like, oh, this person said to use that person because of X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth. That's for every single person in a small town. That's like, wait a second, you're referring me to these people, but actually the only people there. It begs a different conversation even at that point. Is like, if they're the only people there, who have they pushed out? Who are they protecting that community from? What's the honeypot there? Why are there only two? Why is there only one title company in that town? Why is there only one mortgage broker in that town? Like, what's going on here?
Yeah, yeah, it's just making me think of another idea, and I'll put a link up there on the title threats that I've received. I've been threatened by title companies so much, and it boils down to this one thing. One of them called up my old boss and said, "Scott's doing this and Scott's doing that, and he's doing this," and all I did was point out what the tax laws were in Harris County, Texas, and how they were violating the proration payments to my buyer. And my old boss he's cut out of the same cloth as you and I. And he said, and I hear him, I go, well, if you're going to sue us, I need, I'll get an attorney. The guy kept yelling and saying, you need to get an attorney. He goes, I'll get an attorney. Tell me exactly which attorney I need to get. But first thing I need to know what crime was committed. Because really the only thing that I've heard on your end is that the only thing Scott is guilty of is advocating for his client. Has he done anything illegal? I didn't hear the other end. When he got off the phone, he said, yeah, there was a long pause after that. So these people, it is almost like a mafia. It's like, I'm going to call you up. I'm going to shut you down. I'm going to use timing, threats, relationships. And I can tell you, you were smart enough to step out. But when they buy off the realtors in the transaction, so you got the realtors, the builders, and sometimes the builder's title company, which is owned by the seller. Talk about conflict of interest. I've seen these, and these go sideways so fast because everybody is trying to tear up. It's like they're hyenas, and it's just like a gazelle getting ripped to shreds.
Yeah, desperate times, desperate
Yeah,
measures. It's the same thing, and
yeah.
everybody's trying to get as large of a piece of the pie as they possibly can. And I would say,
Well, these title companies are shutting. They're closing down offices because the volumes are down. They were running with very heavy overhead. They were very bureaucratic. They're cutting back on marketing. They're cutting back on stuff. And this is when I see the fraud jump. And
the deals get leaner, the money pools get smaller, there's less to go around, and there's a hyper focus. And I would say if you're dealing in a smaller suburban community like I have, like where there's a known number one mortgage broker, number one title company, but there are no other title companies or mortgage brokers in the city that you're buying in, something's a little weird there.
yeah, yeah, definitely would give you, get a um at least, yeah, get it like a second opinion on that.
Yeah, if you got a bad kidney, you're not going to just one doctor. It's the same thing. It's like, and I'm guilty of this too. Like recently is not getting a second opinion before paying a bunch of money. And like, luckily it worked out, but there was a time where it was like, crap.
Yeah.
I just might have made a couple $1,000 mistake, which, a couple $1,000 is a couple $1,000 to anyone. It matters. And, luckily it worked out in my favor, but there was a time there where it was like, oh damn, I just threw that away. I basically just threw it in the freaking garbage can and lit it on fire. Even though it worked out, there was that fear. It's like, why did I not consult a second opinion? That's so
Yeah.
unlike me. But again, it was a referral from someone who I've trusted and very, very, it's a very good friend of mine, and I trust them with my life. Why would they give me a bad referral?
Yeah.
Long story short, the person handling what I needed them to handle just had a newborn, so it was the communication wasn't what I expected. Even though it worked out, there was a time there where it was a little dark, and I was like, where are my people? Like, what's going on with this?
Yeah. 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 That is Yeah, this is a crazy story, and that's why the headline shows, in the YouTube. I wouldn't believe it if I wasn't like if you had told me this story and I didn't know the pieces behind it, and I didn't know how title is transferred. And I've been doing this 25 years. I was not an expert right away. I would say the first 5, 10 years, I wouldn't be able to catch this. So if you don't get the guy that has a lot of experience, also I'm the owner of the company. And what if I, had a business relationship with the builder and he was giving me deals and buyers and all these things. And it's just it's a situation.
Susceptible.
It just the stars came together at the right time for us to catch them. We got it all in writing. And yeah, if somebody's out there, there's an attorney out there, you got other things, you're interested in class action, I could give you the kind of how they do it. And maybe this is something that happens all over Texas or all over the country for that matter. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. All I know is when the thing that pops in my head is if it's so shocking that it blew me away that I didn't see this coming, I can't assume this is the worst thing they're capable of.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I think we're out of the woods as far as my property goes. Is with
Well,
the
they're scared of you because you're going to nuke them. But what if you weren't? What if you didn't have the ability? You can articulate your position very well. Like you can go in and tell them with absolute certainty something bad will happen to you if you continue to try to steal from me.
I give them an opportunity. I give them the out. It's up to them to take it or not. I don't go anywhere and I don't make assumptions. I come with matter of fact. I may not give them all the facts, and I'll give them an opportunity, just like I did here in this situation. Hey, I'm at level 5 right now. You don't want to know what level 10 is, because then there's a whole different group of people that are going to be involved. It's do me once, do me twice. How does that saying go? It's like they
Yeah, shame on
really.
you. You give me once,
Yeah,
give me twice. Shame on me. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it's what I don't like is, and this is why I've kind of changed my outlook. I used to want to get like bad people back, and now I just want to help good people more because I only have
Yeah.
so much time in the world. Right? Not to get too zen, but these people are just trash. This title company's trash. The builder dealing with the choosing the title company, they're all in on it. They're really trashy people, and trash does not deserve my attention. But there's good people out there, so I really want to help the good people. Now, if I see somebody trying to steal from my good people, well, then I'm going to defend you. Like I was going to, I'm going to jump in and get involved. And I would have got the attorneys involved at UWM. I would have got the state involved. If they would have pressed this issue, I would have made complaints with Texas Department of Insurance. I would have made claims. I mean, these people would probably not be issuing title insurance, and this person would have been fired, possibly arrested if they wouldn't go forward. And I would have made that clear. But I mean, that was like my message to her was, I will get the attorneys involved here. These are the laws you violated, and that's all. I think that's between your presentation and my presentation. They didn't have we had a unified wall.
Yeah, we didn't really give them an out other than the only way forward is to correct this as quickly and swiftly as possible. And even that, as we mentioned before, was like pulling teeth with the errors that they made when they actually got to the tax office to, to fix the problem and pay the property. Specific directions that were about, it could have been easy enough for a toddler to follow, and it just kept falling apart. And it's like, guys, like, you guys are professional business owners. How are you out here surviving? How do you put
Well,
food on the
yeah,
table?
but
It's like kind
they're
of,
criminals. They're criminals. This is a criminal intent. There were crimes committed against you. There was defective title. There was a bunch of other crimes, and they colluded together. So
yeah,
they're
the thing that bothers me the most is it at the end of the day, and reliving this even on this call here, it feels like the collusion was real and that it was a curated effort, maybe unbeknownst to each party. Maybe the title lady was like, I'm going to tell him at the end that I saved him, $2,000 or whatever the tax bill was, 1,600 or something like that. Here, make sure you use this again in the future. I can do this over and over again. Maybe they
yeah.
tried to use me maybe it was the first time they've done this and they were using me as like the test bed for it. Seeing that I represented myself, seeing that Scott was in an in-town, mortgage broker
Go
where
tell
we're,
your builder, because all those builders hang out together. Go tell your builder's buddy, if you give me the title insurance, you don't have to pay your previous taxes.
yeah, I mean, there could have been, secret incentives set up between these people, just like bird dogs are done in the car industry. Hey, if you send me some people, like I'll
Yeah,
give you $200 on a car, the more people you send me.
yeah,
It's the whole
yeah, yeah.
wash.
I mean,
You know,
you'd hate to think that it all goes by graft and corruption, but the more you kind of dig into this, I mean, this isn't something where my brain hangs out. It's not my wheelhouse. I can go to that wheelhouse, but it's not my first like move. But now that you're saying that, yeah, it could have been like where she tried to steal from you, and then later she's like, "Look what I saved. He paid his taxes, and you saved money. Tell your buddies to use me because volume and numbers are down." These people, I know title companies have shut down branches, especially in these small areas. So the main, look at like Rome or like Gaul, right? She's out in Gaul. She's not in Rome at the headquarters. And Gaul, Rome says we need taxes. And if you don't get taxed, if you don't have certain performance, you're just fired. You're gone. And when volume's down like this, there's title people out there. They're out on the street, so they're going to be. I think this fraud. People say, "Well, that never happened to me." Well, wait till you're into a low volume time right now. It's going to come up more. The people you thought told the truth are now going to try to steal from you, and
yeah,
this is a perfect example.
there's always going to be something with your loan, and if there's not, you should be even more suspect. There's always going to be something in there that you could, fix or do better. And if there's not, that's even worse. Like your loan should not go smoothly. There always should be some sort of issues from what I experienced doing and I've only done 3. And every time there's been some sort of little issue or something, whether it's, with the city, with the county, with the tax thing, or, the way the property is designated with the appraisal, whatever it is, there always should be some sort of thing that you should concern you to look deeper into. The signs are all there for everybody. Don't use your friggin' friends to buy you a house. Scott and I are friends from doing mortgages together. We do business first before we were friends. So like, it's like I hear these stories nonstop. Another good one that happened recently with a friend of mine is the seller's agent made a deal with the buyer's agent to convince the owner to put a new roof on the house as an incentive for the buyers that were not even under contract yet. Sending a contractor over to meet with the selling agent to coerce, even though the roof wasn't needed, but the buyers would have really appreciated if there was a new roof on the house. There was collusion there. So even your realtors, they're all trying to get a piece of the pie.
And I bet the person putting the roof on was a recommendation by them. And I know, I know there was
recommendation from the buyers
yeah.
that were not under contract. We want to use this company. They're going to meet with the seller agent at the house and explain to them why they need a new roof before they go under contract. It's just like weird stuff. Like, and at that point, you've already signed with the realtor. You're stuck with them. However, as a consumer, that realtor works under someone else's brokerage house. You can go there and ask for another realtor in their brokerage house. Is that correct?
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. So if even from a realtor perspective, like I'm jaded from the realtors because I had a few really, really bad experiences dealing in this smaller town that I'm in, that I was just like, the only way I'm going to get this deal done that I'm going to be comfortable and happy with at the end of the day is if I do it myself. I can't have a buyer agent negotiating for me, being the middleman, and not include me on those communications with their responses. That is so ridiculous to me when I'm spending $500,000 on a house. I don't have the full transparency into the communications here. That's when I fired the realtor. I'm like, you're done. Like, that's it. I don't care. Bring me to court. Find a judge that's going to give judgment to you while you guys are in litigation right now currently for you know, getting these bloated friggin' commissions for doing nothing, or whatever the case may be, wherever they did with the seller's agents paying the buying agents, whatever made that come about, just like kind of highlighted that for me. It's like, yeah, okay, I don't have transparency into the communications of how this deal is being negotiated. It's my fucking deal, excuse my language. It's my money. Like, how are you not copying me on these emails? Well, that's not standard practice. No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's it's pretty crazy on this end. It is pretty crazy. Well, we appreciate your time and letting us know transparency here. That's what matters. Information's what matter. Don't let people get a jump on you. If you need to talk to somebody, you need to, if you need advice, you got caught in this.
Yeah.
Um, I just, from a personal standpoint, I'd be interested to see if this has happened to other people, and let us know. Let us know if you need any help. Let us know. And at least point you in the right direction. And the first thing is uncovering the premise that you don't deserve to be treated with respect. And anyway, um, yeah, that's just that's just kind of how, yeah, it's pretty crazy. Well, we appreciate everything, Mark. If there's anything else, you let us know, and then. But this has been very informative. I hope people like us. Let us know in the comments if this has been helpful.
Thanks, Scott. See ya.
You have a good day.